Call the meeting to order. So the Pledge of Allegiance, and today's veteran who will lead us in the pledge is Sergeant First Class Eric Darling. Sergeant First Class Mr. Darling served for 30 years with the United States Army and the Pennsylvania Army National Guard. He joined in 1987 as a military policeman. During his career, he served in many positions, including as a squad leader, infantry platoon sergeant, drill sergeant, range operations sergeant, recruiter, and trainer. Sergeant First Class Darling is especially proud of his deployment to Al-Anbar province in Iran in 2005-2006 in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. After his service, Eric founded Valhalla Veteran Services, which provides counseling services and runs a food bank for veterans, and currently lives in Factoryville. Sergeant Darling's awards include the Iraqi Combat Medal, the Combat Infantry Badge, the two Army Commendation Medals, the Global War on Terror Medal, and many others. Sergeant, thank you for being here. Would you please lead us in the pledge?
Please place your hand on your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sergeant, on behalf of all of us, the commissioners and everyone here and our entire Lackawanna County community, I want to thank you for your service and thank you for your sacrifice. Thank you. In calling the meeting to order, we'll have the reading and approval of minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approved. Opportunity for the public to address the board on agenda items only. Seeing none, we have an award presentation that we'd like to talk about here. It's the 2025 International Explorer Award for the Lackawanna County Visitors Bureau as the Tourism and Event Planning Organization of the Year. Here to speak about that, and we offer our congratulations to the Director of the Lackawanna County Convention and Visitors Bureau, Kurt Camoni.
Thank you, Commissioner. And we did, in fact, receive Pennsylvania's Tourism and Event Planning Organization of the Year from the online publication International Explorer, which is a pretty large online tourism publication. It was accompanied by a full spread and 3 or 4 page article in their magazine. I have shared that. If you guys could put it around, it is also available. We are celebrating a little bit today. Not only am I stopping here, but our social media is promoting the award and our new 2026 Visitors Guide, and it contains a link as well if anyone is interested. I've also left some of our new 2026 Visitors Guides outside with the agendas if anyone is interested. I did want to showcase this guide is a major part of what it is that we do in our marketing plan. We call it a three-headed monster. We have our guide, our website, and then our social media presence, and we use each to drive traffic to each other. And it has been doing a really great job for the last 8 years as a marketing agenda and plan, and we like to highlight as much as we can of Lackawanna County's our partners, our businesses, our attractions, restaurants, shopping areas. It's a 100-page book, and it really does set us apart from other visitors bureaus. We find that at our size and competing for the business that we are, we need to stand out from a crowd, and we believe that this book does that for us. The other thing I wanted to bring to light today with as part of all of our good news is we once again in 24-25, we operate on a fiscal. Lackawanna County has set again a new record in hotel room tax collection. It's the highest that Lackawanna County has ever collected, and for 24-25 that was a total room tax collection of just under $4.5 million, of which the county does in fact get 60%, and the Visitors Bureau is funded by state mandate by the remaining 40% to do the work that we do. Just to give you some perspective, in comparison, 2017, 2018 was the first year that I and my team got involved with the Visitors Bureau, and the total hotel room tax collection that year was just over $3.2 million. So what we've seen since then is an increase of over $1.1 million, and the county end of that is just over $600,000. So I say all of that not to pat myself on the back. My team is incredible. We have incredibly talented people working at the Visitors Bureau, putting together this book in conjunction with our local partners. One point of pride about this book, which we started the 27 guide January 5th, is that it is completely local. My staff collaborates completely with Condra and Suida as designers, and then we partner with Scranton Printing, who does the amazing job putting these books out. We distribute, including our digital and online books, well over 100,000 books a year. Our website receives over 1 million visits a year, and our social media is growing exponentially, adding over 200,000 people in the last 8 years to our social media following. It's just, the trends are coming our way. We have a beautiful product to offer. Not only do we have a lot of great amenities, especially for a county and community of our size, but also the beautiful natural amenities that we have, such as the Heritage Trail. So we promote everything across the board. My sales staff and I are out all across the country and even internationally bringing events into Lackawanna County. Our fastest growing sector and our most success comes in sports because of the beautiful facilities that we have to offer in Lackawanna County. And basically, if we have a good day, we've made money for our small businesses in Lackawanna County. At the core of it, we are a 501c6 non-governmental, nonprofit economic development organization. And again, I'm really lucky to have the team I have. Our board is exceptional. They have allowed us to get outside of the box and do things a little differently than a lot of places because, again, we want to get distinguish ourselves from the crowd. A lot of times these books are just sitting on a shelf next to 40 other guides, and we have to make sure that they want to take a look at Lackawanna County, and we do everything we can to do that. So I appreciate it, and if anyone has any questions about the Visitors Bureau or anything that we were working on, please feel free.
Commissioners?
Not a question, just great job. You and your team are doing wonderful things, and I have been impressed over the last 2 years in all the work that you put in. So thank you.
I appreciate that.
Yep, I agree. Great job. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Excellent, awesome, and great publication again this year. And I urge everyone to grab a copy on your way out the door. This just it's just great reading. It's just well laid out. It's very colorful. It's a fabulous production, and I know that it's available at all of the rest stops in Eastern region anyway, and as well as a lot of different businesses, and of course over at your office as well.
Yes, sir. We distribute through Getaways on Display and Pennsylvania on Display, and then we also ship direct to our local hotels. We deliver them to local businesses, along with other products that we put out, like the Office brochure, the Office tour is one of our most popular for sure. And then they're also available every day here on the graphic walls that are downstairs as you're exiting. You can get some of our top publications, including the guide. And I do appreciate the help with the distribution as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job. And something else, and the commissioners may have been working on this previously together with the people from the Rail Riders organization. Some of the exciting things that are coming up are, one of the more exciting that we've seen in a long time is Banana Ball at the stadium. 2 games over at the stadium with Banana Ball, and there's a lot of exciting things that are going to happen over at the stadium in this next year, and a lot of it has to do with what's been done in the past with the commissioners and the Stadium Authority and the Visitors Bureau, which is terrific. Moving on to resolutions. Resolution 26-0024.
It's approving the current payables. Be it resolved, the Board of Commissioners of Lackawanna County is hereby approve the following payables. Lackawanna County's general fund numbers 395-664-396-292, inclusive, totaling $819,425.95. The county's electronic fund transfers totaling $6,172,367.20. Adopted regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners of Lackawanna County held on January 21st, 2026. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I have a motion to approve Resolution 26-0024.
Motion.
Second.
On the question? In favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Resolution 26-0014.
This is approving the OIFS provider contracts. Be it resolved, the Board of Commissioners of Lackawanna County is hereby approve and enter into provider contracts for the fiscal year 25-26 between the Office of Youth and Family Services and the following: Deborah's Safe Haven, Bradley T. Murray CPA LLC. Adopted at regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners of Lackawanna County held on January 21st, 2026. Mr. Chairman, here to speak upon that is the Director of OIFS, Ms. Carrie Browning.
Good morning. Per state regulation, the Office of Youth and Family Services must have a public fiscal audit completed annually. An RFQ was put out in November 2024, which covered the 2024, 2025, and 2026 calendar year. Bradley T. Murray was the sole respondent, and this is an annual renewal. The contract is for $17,500 annually for the 3-year term and is reimbursed at 80% by the state. And Deborah's Safe Haven contract was established due to a very difficult youth that needed placement in December. It is a residential service with a $472.38 per diem that is only paid for the days the youth is there, and it's reimbursed at 60% by the state.
Commissioners, any comments or questions from Ms. Browning? Motion to approve the OIFS provider contracts 26-0014.
Motion.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion to approve, the reading of 26-0015.
Entering into a service agreement, be it resolved, the Board of Commissioners of Lackawanna County is hereby enter into a purchase of service agreement with Edmund Thomas Adolescent Center for the fiscal year 25 through 26 for the purchase of detention beds for juveniles. Adopted regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners of Lackawanna County held on January 21st, 2026. Mr. Chairman, once again, here is Director Browning.
The Edmund Thomas Adolescent Center contract was established due to the need for a detention facility for unique circumstances for a youth involved with juvenile probation. The per diem is $695 per day and was only paid for the number of days that the youth was there, and it was reimbursed at 50% by the state.
Comments or questions? Motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
On the question? On the question, Ms. Browning, just and actually it came up in our work sessions too, and if you would share with us, some of these that we see, they're all the way out in the so to speak, western coast of Pennsylvania, and some of them seem costly to us, too, at $600 or so a day. Could you share with us our questions and why we have to do this and why all the way out there?
Sure. So we always, when we have to place a youth, we always look clearly at family first, and then locally and at foster care agencies. Some of the youth that we deal with and that juvenile probation deal with have complex needs. There are safety precautions that need to take place, and sometimes it's not suitable for them to be in a home or with family members. And locally, there are not a lot of facilities available, so we are constantly having to set up contracts across the state to handle them.
Thank
Yep,
you.
sure.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion 26-0015.
Approving in accordance with Section 147F of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 as amended, a plan of financing of the Scranton-Lackawanna Health and Welfare Authority and declaring that it is desirable for the health, safety, and welfare of the people of Lackawanna County for the Scranton-Lackawanna Health and Welfare Authority to undertake a project for the University of Scranton, whereas pursuant to the Pennsylvania Municipality Authorities Act, the County of Lackawanna, together with the City of Scranton, created the Scranton-Lackawanna Health and Welfare Authority to act as a financing authority for projects serving the city and/or the county. And whereas the University of Scranton has requested the authority to issue revenue bonds in one or more series in an aggregate principal not to exceed $25 million to provide financing for a project consisting of the current refunding of all or a portion of the authority's University of Scranton's revenue series bonds of 2016 and the payment of certain costs of issuance. And now therefore the Board of Commissioners of Lackawanna County hereby resolves that the issuance of the bonds by the authority in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $25 million and to use the proceeds of the bonds to finance the project is hereby approved. It is hereby declared desirable for the health, safety, and welfare of the people of Lackawanna, Pennsylvania, that the authority to issue the bonds for the purpose of financing the project, the foregoing action of the board shall not in any way pledge or obligate or credit or taxing power of the County of Lackawanna, Pennsylvania, nor shall the county be liable for any payment of the principal of premium, if any, or interest on the bonds or any other costs related thereto, adopted on the 21st day of January 2026 by the Board of Commissioners of the County of Lackawanna, Pennsylvania, in a lawful session duly assembled. Mr. Chairman, here to speak about that is our former solicitor and general counsel and chief of staff and man with many hats, Attorney Donald Frederickson.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm here today on behalf of Brian Kozlansky, representing the Lackawanna County Health and Welfare Authority, and we're basically seeking your blessing for the Health and Welfare Authority to issue revenue bonds for the University of Scranton in an amount not to exceed $25 million. They're going to use the bonds to refinance debt they already have from 2016. They're going to be refinancing that debt with the proceeds. Again, this does not obligate the county in any way, but because the authority was formed by the county and the city, we need the blessing of both the county and the city to proceed with their funding.
And the city's already approved this?
The city has introduced, they had the first reading of their ordinance, and they're going to approve it at next week's meeting, Commissioner, yes. Mm-hmm.
Have a motion to approve the bond issue?
Motion.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Resolution 26-0022.
It's 1-7, sir.
Oh, excuse me.
It's okay. Approving the Homeless Assistance Program, be it resolved, the Board of Commissioners of Lackawanna County does hereby approve agreements for the Department of Human Services and its providers for the Homeless Assistance Program agreement for the fiscal year 25 through 26 for Catholic Social Services and the United Neighborhood Centers. Adopted regularly in the Board of Commissioners of Lackawanna County held on January 21st, 2026. Mr. Chairman, here to speak upon that is our Director of Human Services, Ms. Barb Durkin.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm looking for your support for the county to enter into grants with United Neighborhood Centers as well as Catholic Social Services for our state-funded homeless assistance program. This is a preventative program that assists individuals who are on the brink of homelessness or who are actually experiencing homelessness. There's no cost to the county for this particular grant program. We've been administering it for a number of years. For United Neighborhood Centers, we're looking to enter into case management services, rental assistance, as well as emergency housing services. And then for Catholic Social Services, we're looking to enter into a grant agreement for rental assistance and case management services. For Catholic Social Services, the majority of that money actually goes to the administration of the shelters we have here in Lackawanna County. So that's something that we've been integral part of. It goes to the expansion of the Code Blue shelter here in the county as well. Are there any questions on any of that?
Have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
On the question?
On the question, obviously these are really important programs, and I'm glad that we're funding them partially. Many of these issues in regards to homelessness intersect with mental health and with drug addiction. And I think we were all horrified to get notice and read the media reports back on January 14th that the Trump administration sent a letter wiping out addiction and mental health grants in the amount of $2 billion throughout the country. We then received notification that they reversed that overnight. Is that correct?
That's correct,
Mr. Ricken?
yes.
Right. So I'm glad that they reversed that, but we've gone through this now 2 or 3 different times in the last year and a half, 2 years, where they'll make a drastic move that affects poor people, and then either reverse it or, so a lot of it's in limbo, but I'm glad that they reversed this one, because if they did go through with that, it would really hurt many departments in Lackawanna County. Thank you.
And to Commissioner Gaughan's point, that it is a huge concern as to what happened, and if they had gone through with that, that would have been a clawback. That was for funding that was already granted.
Correct. Yeah, so it was funding through the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
And already
SAMHSA.
spent.
So it was grant funded through their discretionary grant portfolio that had already been allocated to grantees, some of which had already fully been spent. Again, we weren't quite sure what specific discretionary grant programs that would have impacted, but when you do the math and look at SAMHSA's discretionary grant portfolio, every single one would have, if you did a total of the awards, would have gone up to about $2 billion. So I would assume that they were looking to wipe out a large majority of SAMHSA's discretionary grants, some of which are drug court grants. So Lackawanna County has received SAMHSA drug court grants for a number of years. They had already spent all of that money. I think they actually just within the last 6 months did a drawdown from SAMHSA. I'm not quite sure if they would have had to have returned any of that money based on that particular directive from SAMHSA. So, it's concerning moving forward. We'll see kind of what happens moving forward.
And you mentioned that the funds that we're talking about are state funds. Can we assume that the state funds stem from federal funds?
Correct, yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Resolution 26-0018.
This approving agreements for the Human Services Development Fund. Be it resolved, the Board of Commissioners of Lackawanna County is hereby approve provider agreements for the Department of Human Services for the Human Services Development Fund for the fiscal year 25 through 26 for the Jewish Family Services and Meals on Wheels. Adopted a regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners of Lackawanna County held on January 21st, 2026. Mr. Chairman, once again, here is Director Durkin.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'm looking for your support for the county to enter into contracts for the Human Service Development Fund, similar to the previous housing assistance program. This is a block grant program that comes directly from the state. It doesn't cost the county any money. We do a request for qualifications to identify providers that are interested in implementing this program with us. At this point, we're looking to award Jewish Family Services, money for counseling services, as well as Meals on Wheels for meal-related services for individuals within Lackawanna County. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Resolution 26-0019.
This approving a FEMA grant agreement. Be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners of Lackawanna County is hereby approve and enter into an agreement with the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Agency for the 911 statewide interconnectivity funding grant in the amount of $421,466.31. Adopted recommending the Board of Commissioners of Lackawanna County held on January 21st, 2026. Mr. Chairman, here to speak upon that is our Director of the 911, Mr. Al Carney.
Good morning. This is a grant that we apply for every year, several grants. In this grant, we received 6 different awards totaling $421,466.31 to cover CAD maintenance for our computer where we put all our calls, our ILEC maintenance, which covers the telephone connectivity of our 911 calls delivery, $45,000 for some GIS maintenance for next generation 911, $25,590.64 for our shared recorder that we have with Monroe County, $166,868.81 for CHE, which is our telephone maintenance cost for our portion of the Northeast Core, because we share a whole phone system with several counties, and then $93,993.66 for the EZNet, which covers our tower maintenance, fiber, and so on. We apply every year. We would have these costs if we didn't get these grants, so it allows us to have more money in our general 911 fund.
And are there any anticipated delays in issues with the interconnectivity funding?
Nope, this is already approved by them, so as soon as this gets approved, we get it back to them, and as we start drawing on the money, they'll reimburse us quarterly.
Motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Resolution 26-0020.
Entering into an equipment maintenance agreement. Be it resolved, the Board of Commissioners of Lackawanna County is hereby enter into an equipment maintenance agreement with Two-Way Mobile Communications Incorporated on behalf of the emergency services. It's a one-year term to begin January 1st, 2026. Adopted regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners of Lackawanna County held on January 21st, 2026. Mr. Chairman, once again, here's Director Carney.
Two-Way is our maintenance provider for the Northeast Corps. So the money for this agreement, and they are the chosen by the Northeast Corps to handle this, so is covered by the grants that we just cost. So there's no cost to the county. These are all covered under the shared recorder, the CHE, and the EZNet. So we'll receive the money from the state, and then we'll pay them. So it's a no cost to the county.
Motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you, Al. Resolution 26-0021.
This is authorizing an agent for the Hazard Mitigation Plan update. Be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners of Lackawanna County is hereby designate the Director of the Department of Planning as the agent to authorize, execute, and act on behalf of Lackawanna County for the contract between Lackawanna County and the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Agency for the 2026 Hazard Mitigation Plan update. Adopted regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners of Lackawanna County held on January 21st, 2026. Mr. Chairman, here to speak upon that is our Director of Planning, Ms. Mary Liz Donato.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
This resolution is to authorize the Director of Planning and to execute for and on behalf of the Commissioners all the required forms and documents for our current hazard mitigation grant through PEMA. This is an existing contract from 2023 to update our hazard mitigation plan, which we are just about done with, but it's a mandate from FEMA that we do it every 5 years. This is just a revised authorization to change the agent from the Director of Economic Development to the Director of Planning now that we are two separate departments.
Motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Resolution 26-0022.
This is authorizing PennDOT Master Grant Agreement. Be it resolved, the Board of Commissioners of Lackawanna County does hereby authorize the Director of the Lackawanna County Department of Planning to execute the Master Grant Agreement with the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation for the Unified Planning Work Program of the Lackawanna Luzerne Metropolitan Planning Organization on behalf of the County of Lackawanna. Adopted regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners of Lackawanna County held on January 21st, 2026. Mr. Chairman, once again, here is Director Donato.
And similar to the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, this is a grant we have from PennDOT for the Lackawanna Luzerne MPO Unified Planning Work Program. It's about a $388,000 grant that we received from PennDOT for transportation planning efforts by our staff. So it's a reimbursable grant. It's in existence from 2022. It goes to 2031. And again, similar to the hazard mitigation, it's to reauthorize the Director of Planning to execute the forms instead of the Director of Economic Development.
Motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Resolution 26-0023.
It's authorizing the closeout of the comprehensive ATV study, whereas the purpose of the comprehensive ATV study plan is to engage in a comprehensive countywide study to determine the feasibility of dedicated ATV routes and potential dedicated sites for ATV usage. And the plan was financed in part by the Community Conservation Partnerships Program grant under the administration of the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, Bureau of Recreation and Conservation. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Lackawanna County Board of Commissioners that A, the project was completed in accordance with the DCNR grant agreement. B, all project expenditures have been made in accordance with the DCNR grant agreement. C, the plan and related materials are acceptable to the Lackawanna County Commissioners. And D, the plan and related materials will be used to guide future recreation and conservation decisions. Adopted at the regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners of Lackawanna County held on January 21st, 2026. Mr. Chairman, this is Lackawanna County's Business Relations Coordinator, Mr. James Hazen.
Good morning, Commissioners. So Lackawanna County was previously awarded a $125,000 grant from DCNR to conduct an ATV feasibility study. That award amount covered the entirety of that study and did not require any match from Lackawanna County. Right now, this resolution is just a final closeout requirement for DCNR prior to the January 30th deadline.
Motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
On the question? With the study, I assume, did you get input from people that are eager to see our trails or new trails opened for use of that, as well as people that might be walkers, bikers, runners, that have issues with ATVs on the trails?
Yeah,
Did the study deal with those issues?
Yes, when we opened up the RFP and we hired Michael Baker to come in, we did hold a meeting that was attended both online and in person. It had far more people than we even expected to come out to it. A lot of people put their input into it, and that was all taken into account by Michael Baker in this study. While the study does focus mostly on ATV trails and potential parks, it did take into account walkers, pedestrians, bicycles, and things of that nature. The study itself can be found on the website. It's under the Department of Economic Development's page on our website. It's about 220 pages long. It's filled with information, and I would encourage anybody that wants to find out more about it to read it.
Terrific. Thank you for sharing that. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Resolution 26-0016.
These are appointments to the Workforce Development Board. Be it resolved, the Board of Commissioners of Lackawanna County is hereby appoint the following individuals to the Workforce Development Board with a term to commence January 21st, 2026 and end on December 31st, 2029. Patrick Fracconi, the CEO and partner of Simplex Industries Incorporated. Mr. Matthew Maloney, co-owner of Cal-Mal Vending. Jamie Ryan, CPA Vice President, Relationship Manager of PNC Bank. Adopted a regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners of Lackawanna County held on January 21st, 2026. Mr. Chairman.
And it was also the renomination of Mr. or Ms. Ojo. Is that part of it also?
Not on my resolution, sir.
Okay. Motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
Question?
For a second.
Just real quick, related to this, there's been some publicity and attention regarding looking for Lackawanna County residents to sign up to be a member of any of the boards and authorities that we have. And the response already has been incredibly robust, which is terrific to see that we have so many residents, so many people in the region that want to be a part of making our area even greater. But just to be clear, it's a little bit misleading in that several of the positions that are listed as available are actually appointments that aren't made by the commissioners, but rather are made by dictated, mandated other agencies that provide for those nominations. So we do encourage anyone that is interested in serving on any of the boards and commissions to do so. And we'll certainly look at all of them. It has been pretty exciting to see the number of people that are interested in applying for these positions. Unfortunately, there aren't as many openings, particularly in a few of them, in which the people most favored want to see or want to serve in. But the commissioners, I assure you, are going to look at all of the applications and consider them and make the appointments. And thank you for volunteering to serve. Opportunity for the public to address the board.
Mr. Chairman, on the official resolution, Kelly Ojo, Vocational Rehabilitation Supervisor, Pennsylvania Department of Labor and Industry, is listed. It's omitted from my computer, sorry.
Okay. And excuse me, I did miss on the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. opportunity for the public to address the board.
Bob Bola, Scranton. If I may, Commissioner Willoughby, I'd like to present something to Chief of Staff for Mr. Gahan, if I may, please.
Go ahead, here we go.
Well, hold on a second, Bob. Mr. Chairman, I ask, if it's not business related with the county, that they give it to us at the end of the meeting.
That's fair.
Thank you.
First off, I think what we need to do is talk about our health care in the city. I spent 7.5 hours in the hospital, sitting in a chair in the waiting room to get treated. They did a hell of a job taking care of me. Got me my MRIs, CAT scans, everything else I had from an accident. The issue I have, and I come from a medical background, is that we're sitting here with 2 hospitals with uncertainty. It's time for people like Flynn, Gazarovski, and others, McMullen, and other people, Republican and Democrats, to fund these hospitals as employee-owned. We'll have better service, and God knows we need it. Just look around and see what's going on in this community. And the other part of it is we need a PTSD clinic, and I'm willing to donate one of my buildings to set up a clinic. Because if anybody's paid attention, PTSD has run rampant in this community and around the country. And people don't understand PTSD. It affects everyone, not just military or fire or police. It affects an individual. And there's no one around here treating it. I have a clinical psychologist I brought up here once already to the Gino Merle to establish it, and they turned a blind eye with the VA in Wilkes-Barre. What I like to see is the support from the commissioners to establish a PTSD. I'll bring Dr. Lindenfeld here. He'll address the board. It'll be at my expense, so we could educate people, which he will do, to train those that are needed to help with PTSD. The other part is these stupid data centers. If anybody was around a long time ago, you remember when Lake Scranton almost went dry in a drought. We're governed by Mother Nature. If we don't get rain, we don't get water, our drinking supply and everything else gets to be an issue. So we have to look very, very, very seriously at these data centers and the catastrophic issues they could cause to our community. So those are one of the things that I wanted to see brought up here today. But move forward on getting funding to make those hospitals employee-owned. You'll have more dedication than you could ever imagine. We've done it in the transportation industry with companies that we converted to employee-owned trucking companies, and they show up and go to work, no matter what the weather is. And putting it on the side, what I wanted to bring here to Mr. Jeffers, and the reason I'm doing this is because I was really ticked off when Mr. Gahan wanted to insult his fellow commissioners. What I went and got you, Bill, is a muzzle. And I want you to use this, put it in your pocket, and remember 2 things. Engage the brain before you put your mouth in gear. I listened to you at the King's rally when you denounced that you were not there as a commissioner, but as a private citizen. Then a week later, you put in the paper, once a commissioner, always a commissioner. So I wanted to give you this so you understand you represent the people, not yourself. And you owe your 2 commissioners an apology.
Mr. Bullis,
and I'm
it's
not
out of
going to
order.
back off till you do that. But I'm going to give this, if I may, to the Chief of Staff to give to you after the meeting or whatever. so that you could take it and you could laugh. You were instrumental in causing a
4,
tax sale
3,
on my property.
2,
I'm speaking.
1. I was just counting down. Go ahead.
I'm speaking.
Thank you, Mr. Bolus. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board?
May I give this to him, Your Honor?
Not at this time, after the meeting. You can give it to
I'll
Mr.
mail it to
Jeffries.
you.
Bring some toilet paper, too. Pay your taxes.
Joan Hodawan, Scranton. With regard to applications for the boards, authorities, and commissions, I made some comments on it during a previous meeting, but I have more to say. I was on the county's library board for upwards of 8 years, and I serve on 2 Scranton boards, and I attend a fair share of boards, both for Scranton and the county. And it's come to my attention that for people who want to apply, I think there are 3 major criteria. First, you've got to have the time to serve. A lot of people underestimate what's required time-wise. They think, oh, there's 1 meeting a month or 1 meeting every other month. Well, that's the tip of the iceberg. Okay, and if you don't have the time, think twice about asking to serve. Second criteria is talent. You either need to know something about the subject area or be willing to educate yourself. Okay? You have no idea how many times I go to one of these public meetings and what I see is a bobblehead. And they have no idea what they're voting on, what the topic is. And maybe I can only assume that their motivation is they're either resume building or they want bragging rights, or maybe have nothing better to do with their time. But you need to have talent, and that includes educating yourself where required. That takes time. And the third one, which is underestimated, is passion for the area of expertise. You got to have fire in the belly. These shrinking wallflowers and violets need not apply, okay? If you can't get up there and speak your mind and hold your own with other people, it's not for you. And I know you have a lot of people applying, but that's what you should be looking for. And people applying, have they ever attended a meeting of that particular commission or board? Do they know what they're asking for? Now, speaking of boards, go on your county's website, click on boards, commission, authorities, and the list comes up, and then you click on them. My 2 favorite are the library board and the literacy committee. Now, I don't know who's responsible for keeping these pages up to date, but I wanted to go to the literacy committee meeting that was scheduled for January 15th. And the only information on the page was that they meet the 3rd Thursday of every month at 5:30 in this conference room. So, cold weather, I'm huffing on down from the public library from their trustee meeting, and all the doors are locked and there's nobody around. Okay? Did I miss a legal notice in the paper that it was canceled and rescheduled? I don't know. But, here it is, all the meetings listed for 2026, and no update on where they meet. And I'm hoping that it's not Zoom only. COVID is over, and I don't have access to the internet, so I intend to go in person. And I thought that the Sunshine Law for Pennsylvania gave me that opportunity. Am I wrong? I don't know. Now, my other comments that I want to make real quickly is on these data centers. Gary, I take my hat off to you for you attending the public meeting for the Wildcat Ridge. I know you went in your capacity as Kaiser Valley Neighborhood Association president. But in my opinion, this whole issue of data centers, it's not just a municipal issue, it's a county issue. There are no data centers proposed for the city of Scranton. But what's the impact on Lake Scranton? Mr. Bolus was right. Got to take a look at that. That one data center for Wildcat Ridge may take as much as 3.3 million gallons of water per day. But there are multiple data centers proposed for the valley. Many of them are going to be tapping into Lake Scranton. You people need to stop arguing with each other and stand up and represent the residents of the county, because this is just like the coal barons. 20 years from now, 30, 50 years from now, they're going to leave us in the dust. So stand up and let your voice be heard. Thank you.
Anyone else would like to address the board? Seeing none. Commissioners, other business? Commissioner Gahan?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I want to speak today on two issues. The first one, and these two issues I feel compelled to speak out about, and there are two issues of deep concern. The first is an issue that strikes at the heart, I believe, of what it means to feel safe, to be treated fairly under the law, and to trust in the basic decency of our government. 2 weeks ago in Minnesota, far from here but not far from our conscience, the nation watched as federal immigration enforcement actions by ICE spiraled into violence and chaos. A United States citizen was killed in cold blood, shot in the face, during a federal operation in Minneapolis, raising serious questions about tactics, transparency, and accountability. Others have been detained, questioned, or intimidated by ICE, not because they had committed crimes, but because they were suspected, misidentified, or simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. There have been many instances of ICE harassing United States citizens just because they aren't white or they have an accent. There have been instances of American citizens being detained and even mistakenly deported. One of the most recent and shocking stories was federal immigration agents, ICE, bashed open a door and detained a United States citizen in his Minnesota home at gunpoint without a warrant, then let him out onto the streets in his underwear in sub-freezing conditions. And that's according to his family. It's according to video clips that are widely viewed on the internet, and also as reported by the Associated Press. That should stop every single one of us cold. What needs to be made absolutely clear, and this is why I'm speaking out today, is that what we are witnessing is not limited to undocumented immigrants, and it's not limited to the big cities in the United States. This, in my opinion, is about unchecked enforcement power. This is about fear replacing due process, and this is about ordinary people, including United States citizens, being swept up in something that is growing more aggressive and less accountable by the day. I'm not here to debate or discuss immigration policy. I'm not here to try to score political points. I'm here to warn the people of Lackawanna County, if you're not already concerned enough. Because history teaches us that when government agents operate with broad authority, minimal oversight, and a climate of fear, the danger is never confined to just one group, at least in the beginning. When we look back at some of the darkest chapters in human history, including Nazi Germany, we see how rapidly state enforcement, unchecked and unaccountable, can turn from protecting citizens to terrorizing them. Ordinary citizens believed at first that it would only affect others. By the time they realized it wouldn't, it was too late, and I do not make that comparison lightly. When any government begins to treat people as less than fully protected members of society, we all become less free. This is a county, Lackawanna County, that was built by immigrants: Irish, Italian, Polish, Lithuanian, Ukrainian, Jewish, Latino, and so many others. People who came here seeking freedom and opportunity and who made this community what it is today. That legacy matters, and it's not abstract for us. People here should remember what happened a few months ago in Dunmore, where a member of our community, a hardworking gentleman, was snatched off the street, pushed off his bicycle during an immigration enforcement action, and was deported along with his young daughter. That story didn't dominate national headlines, but it lives on in this community, in whispered conversations, in fear passed from parent to child, and in the quiet decision not to go out, not to speak up, and not to draw attention. And there are many more stories like it. I live in South Scranton. A lot of my neighbors are immigrants. One in particular was born in Mexico, but became a United States citizen. She's been in this country for decades. I hadn't seen her in a while, just ran into her about a week ago. I asked her, where have you been? Won't come out of her house. Why not? Are you sick? Is there something wrong? She's afraid she's going to get snatched up by ICE. She's afraid she's going to get deported back to Mexico, even though she's a United States citizen, and so is her entire family. These stories never get reported. They never make it into press releases or court filings. They only surface when someone is already gone. So when immigrant families in our county tell me and others, in fact, a gentleman got up at the city council meeting, I think 2 weeks ago, and told at least 2 or 3 stories of people that we don't read about in the paper who have been literally snatched off the streets of Scranton and of Lackawanna County. When they tell me that they're afraid, not just afraid of deportation, but afraid of being mistaken, being stopped, being harassed, or being harmed, I take that seriously, and I think every one of us in this county should. Because fear like that doesn't stay contained. It spreads. It silences people. It stops victims from reporting crimes. It stops witnesses from cooperating with law enforcement, and it makes entire communities less safe. And it is precisely why I believe our county officials have a moral obligation to seriously examine how we interact with federal enforcement actions by ICE that impact our residents, regardless of immigration status. We had a recent incident that I was made aware of where an ICE agent reached out to one of our department directors looking for information on an individual. We have the example of the little girl in Dunmore whose father was snatched off the street that I mentioned before, and ICE reached out to the Office of Youth and Family Services even though the girl was not in the county's custody. So today I'd like to ask our County Solicitor Attorney Walker for clear guidance on what responsibility county officials have and what legal options we have when responding to inquiries or requests from ICE. Is there room under the law to limit cooperation when it may jeopardize community safety and trust? Are we required to honor ICE detainers that are not backed by a judicial warrant? What information do our departments collect that ICE could try to pull directly or indirectly? What policies can we adopt to minimize unnecessary collection of immigration-related data in the first place? What access, if any, should ICE have to county facilities and county property? If agents show up at a county building, what is the protocol? Who is authorized to speak? Who can deny access absent a warrant? I'd also like you, Attorney Walker, to research what other counties in Pennsylvania have done to protect immigrant residents from overreach while still complying with constitutional and legal obligations. Because, and I want to emphasize this, just because something is legal does not mean that it is right. We should be informed and we should be lawful, but we must also be moral. And we must never forget, if we do not protect our immigrant neighbors here in Lackawanna County, we will be next. If rights are eroded for one group, as they are being now, they can be eroded for all. To our immigrant residents in Lackawanna County, I want you to hear this clearly. You have rights. You have protections under the United States Constitution. And you do not lose those rights because someone thinks you look like something else. And to the broader public, I want to be equally clear. When enforcement crosses the line into fear, when the Constitution is treated as optional, when people, not policies, become the casualties, that is something every citizen here should reject. That is something every parent in the community should fear, and they do fear it. My kids go to John F. Kennedy School in Southside. Most of their friends are immigrants, or their parents are immigrants. These people are scared. They're scared of what they are seeing on the news and what's going on across the country. And that's something that the families of Lackawanna County deserve better than. This is not about left or right. This is about right and wrong. It's about simple human decency. We cannot allow fear to become a tool of governance, and we cannot allow force to replace restraint. We cannot allow silence to replace vigilance. And I hope that Lackawanna County will stand for dignity and will stand for due process and will stand for the principle that no person should fear their government simply for existing. Usually I would not bring an issue like this up at a commissioners meeting because we try to separate the national politics from, county business. But I am hearing nonstop from the people in my neighborhood in Southside, from the immigrant community. And if we don't stand up, and there are people standing up, then the next time we speak out, it'll be us. They'll be snatching us off the street because we're Democrats, because we wrote something on social media. That might seem extreme, but I think that's the course that we're currently heading down. So history is watching how we respond, and I hope we respond correctly. And I would appreciate, Solicitor Walker, if you could look into that information. Thank you. I also want to address the issue of data centers in, yes?
The specific questions that you have them written down?
Yes.
If you could just email them to me and I'll
Sure.
drill down.
Sure, thank you. I also want to address the issue of data centers in Lackawanna County. This is an issue, obviously, that I've spoken about before here at the commissioner meetings, but similar to the issue I just talked about, this is something that we're hearing about now from almost every single person that I run into on the street. Everybody has some question or some concern about data centers. Progress is not the enemy. Technology is not the enemy. Innovation has always been part of the American story, and it's always been part of the story here in Lackawanna County if you look at our history, from the steam engine to electricity to railroads to the internet. Each generation has been shaped by new tools that promise to make life better, faster, and more connected, and in many ways they have, and that's a good thing. It's important to note, though, that every advance is not an improvement, and not every form of progress serves the people who live where it lands. We stand today at one of those moments here in Lackawanna County. Across this county, across northeastern Pennsylvania and the entire state, we are being told that the future has arrived in the form of data centers, vast windowless buildings filled with servers, cables, cooling systems, and generators. We are told that they represent innovation, opportunity, and prosperity, and I certainly understand the appeal. But our responsibility should be not to chase every trend that comes along, but to ask a more difficult question. Progress for whom and at what cost? Because here is what concerns me, and I think concerns a lot of people that I've been talking to over the last few months. We are a county, just like many counties throughout Pennsylvania, who are struggling with housing affordability. We're a county, like many others, trying to keep young families here. A county investing in parks, trails, neighborhoods, and quality of life. And now we are being asked to devote large tracts of land, enormous amounts of water, and massive electrical capacity to facilities that few people will ever enter, that employ relatively few permanent workers, and that exist almost entirely to serve people and corporations someplace else. These facilities do not build neighborhoods, they do not create downtowns, they do not send children to our schools. They hum, they consume, they extract, and then they lock the doors. This is not an argument against technology. It's an argument for balance, because a community cannot live in the cloud. You can't raise a family in a server rack. You can't build a neighborhood out of backup generators. You can't replace a park, a home, or a main street with a cooling tower and call it economic development. We are also being asked to ignore very real environmental questions. These facilities, as has been widely reported, require extraordinary amounts of electricity at a time when working families in our county are already paying higher utility bills. And one of the reasons we're paying higher utility bills is because of the data centers that are being built in other parts of our electrical grid around the East Coast. They require enormous volumes of water at a time when water systems and reservoirs are among our most precious public resources. They generate constant noise, heat, and emissions from backup power systems in communities that did not ask to become industrial zones for the digital economy. And once they are built, they do not leave. So when residents come to me from Covington or Jessup or Ransom Township, Kaiser Valley, and they say, we're worried about our water, we're worried about our property values, we're worried about our quality of life, I believe that we have an obligation to listen. Because local governments exist for one reason above all else, to stand with the people who live here. Not with billion-dollar corporations, not with Amazon or Microsoft, not with developers chasing the next trend, which we've seen a lot of that here in the county in the last few months, not with glossy presentations and distant promises. It's with the residents who drink the water, pay the utility bills, and raise their children here, who want to know that when they look out their window in 10 years, they still recognize their hometown and their neighborhoods. Some people will say, and I've heard, but look at the tax revenue. And yes, there are places in this country where data centers have become a major part of the tax base. But Lackawanna County in Pennsylvania is not Northern Virginia. We don't have the same laws, infrastructure, the same scale, or the same market conditions. We don't yet, in my opinion, have a clear, honest accounting of what the true net benefit would be after infrastructure upgrades, environmental mitigation, and long-term public costs. And an example that I can give you is in Virginia, their local counties like Loudoun County benefit immensely from a tangible personal property tax on computer equipment. Data centers often upgrade their equipment every 3 to 5 years, meaning local governments re-tax this equipment frequently, producing a recurring revenue stream that can account for up to 31% of some local tax bases. So that's why I think you've seen an explosion in the amount of money that's being brought in to those counties. Pennsylvania lacks the same type of aggressive recurring personal property tax on data center equipment that the state of Virginia has. Pennsylvania primarily provides a sales and use tax exemption program for equipment. So the question is, what is the true benefit to the people who live in Lackawanna County? I think it's also important to note the extraordinary pressure being placed on our local borough councils and township councils, the local zoning boards, and the local planning commissions. I've spoken to many of them, and they are confronting a new and complicated reality, and I think they're doing their best, often with limited guidance and enormous responsibility. At the end of the day, the decision on whether to allow data centers rests rightly with the locally elected officials and people who know their communities best and who must live with the consequences of these choices long after the headlines in the media fade. There is a practical constraint, though, that I believe we should be discussing, and I have been discussing with our planning department, and I just talked to State Representative Kyle Donahue the other day about this. At present, I believe the counties in Pennsylvania do not clearly have the authority to impose a county-level impact fee on data centers. That authority, as I understand it, would likely require explicit authorization from the General Assembly. In other words, even if we believe that an impact fee is fair, even if we believe it's necessary, even if we believe that it's good public policy, we may not have the legal tools to implement it. If data centers place unique burdens on infrastructure, which I believe they will, utilities, emergency services, our housing market, environmental systems, among many other, then it's entirely reasonable for the Commonwealth to consider legislation that allows host counties to recover some of these costs. So today I'd like to ask our solicitor to be, again, Attorney Walker, to begin looking at whether state enabling legislation is needed, which I believe based on my initial review it is, and what models exist in other states that would benefit counties. I have to commend our planning department and our planning director, Mary Liz Donato. I've been in her office many times over the last few weeks. They are a phenomenal resource, and they're actively looking into these issues as well and are staying on top of everything that's going on in the county. In the end, though, this is not about being anti-technology. I think progress is a great thing. We saw what happened in the United States with the Industrial Revolution, and Lackawanna County was on the forefront of that. But my great-grandfather was at the forefront back in the early 1900s of a group in Southside called the South Scranton Surface Protective Association. And that group was dedicated to fighting the mine companies because the homes in Southside and really all over certain parts of Scranton and in Lackawanna County were literally falling into the ground. So a group of them got together and fought up and down Lackawanna County and all the way down to Harrisburg about this. Why did they do that? Because the coal companies came in, they stripped the land, they stripped our resources, and then they bolted, left town, and didn't leave us any resources to fix the problems that they left. We don't want that to happen here in Lackawanna County with these data centers. So this is about recognizing that the measure of progress is not about how much data we can store, but how well our people can live. So my stance on this today is that I have been paying attention. I unfortunately could not make the Ransip Township meeting because my wife had a PTA meeting and one of my children wasn't feeling well. But I am paying attention to this. I am talking to the local council members and zoning board members, and I'm staying on top of this as much as I can. And whatever we can do as a county, we should be doing. And I think if we can somehow get the state legislature to help us with this impact fee, if that's even possible, if we are going to have data centers here, then these are billion-dollar companies, then they should pay, not just in property taxes, but in a fee that we can then redistribute for housing needs, for parks, for recreation, and for the people who are going to be affected by this new technology. Thank you.
Commissioner Sherbeck?
Just want to address a couple things that were brought up by public comment with the hospitals. There's nothing that make me happier to see the public, private run our hospitals here with local people. That would be a great asset to us here. I know I've been in conversation with Congressman Bresnahan and with some of our other representatives about that. So, you know, it certainly isn't off the table, but I don't know where that's going to go. But that would be a nice thing to be able to have it locally run and not conglomerations come in here and try to take over and then leave when they decide it's not worth it. But so hopefully we can get that worked out because we definitely need the hospitals. The PTSD clinic, certainly our guest of this morning, Eric Darling, would know about that. I know with Valhalla Veteran Services, he deals with that. You know, I certainly wouldn't mind listening to another expert come in and give us their thoughts on, you know, what could be done or what could be added to our different groups that do this kind of thing, with NAMI and Valhalla Veteran Services, with Camp Freedom, and, you know, with our Suicide Prevention Alliance here at the county, we talk about a lot of that stuff at every meeting. So, you know, maybe I could get that doctor to come and speak and give us some information on what he has to offer. So I would certainly look into that. And boards and authorities, yes, we're going to be looking over those lists. We have a lot of interest. Again, like Commissioner Welby said, some of them are dictated by different areas that it has to be a certain kind of a person or certain criteria that they have to make, but, you know, we can look at those as we go through the list. See who's qualified for some of these specialty positions, but we'll be looking at all of them. So we'll be moving forward.
Thank you. Regarding the boards and the authorities, Joan, you were brought up actually regarding the library and the literacy committee, and the work that you have done in those areas is noticed, is well noticed, and your work and the volunteer work that you do is greatly appreciated. And I don't know if you have applied for either of them. I hope that you do. Regarding the PTSD clinic, we will, the commissioners, the three commissioners and our staff will certainly look into both our county level, our state level, and federal level as to what services are being provided and are there, is there a need for improved services in those areas. We can't do enough to be sure that our veterans are taken care of, to be sure that our veterans, that nobody falls through the cracks. We have seen way too much in the way of veteran suicide. It's just horrible. At one point, I don't know where we're at now, but we're at 22 suicides a day, which is just almost beyond comprehension. So we will look into that, and hopefully, if there's room to improve, we certainly will. I know that on the local, state, and federal level, I know that same feeling is shared. It's shared with your commissioners up here. Regarding the data centers, Commissioner Gahan is spot on with the points, and Gary, thank you. I know as a resident of that area of Kaiser Valley, you're concerned about all of the issues, not the least of which is increased flooding in the Kaiser Valley area from water runoff that you already have issues with and possible future ones. But that's just not to say that that's one of your least issues, but there are some severe issues that we have to deal with. And it's true that we need Harrisburg to step up and enable legislation that will give us more power. As a county government, we really don't have much power. We have the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission can review and will review plans from zoning and zoning authorities and also with municipalities, but they can only make recommendations. They, so to speak, don't have a whole lot of teeth in mandating what's to be done with that land use, which is something we have to deal with. The real power lies in the individuals. Certainly making your noise to all of your elected officials is critically important, but it's also critically important that you do what Gary and so many others have done, and that is to stand up, to make your voice clear. It is your local zoning and your local municipalities that are making these determinations, and there should not be even a question, there shouldn't be a conversation about a data center being located in any area near residences. I mean, they do not belong in neighborhoods, and I don't think there's anybody up here that disagrees with that. We just can't allow for that, but it's important that everybody stand up, speak up. Maybe it's like the old broadcast news movie where it's time to go to your window, open up that window and yell out, "I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore." Maybe it's important for each of us to do that regarding this particular issue. And the thought of the amount of water they're talking about drawing down from Lake Scranton from a single data center is insane. But the county commissioners hear you. Hopefully something will happen in Harrisburg. I spent almost 15 years down there, and it's a fractured body that can't seem to one chamber can't get along with the other. And it was that way when I was there, and it seems to be the same way now. Hopefully they'll overcome that for the good of the citizens. But again, it's important. Stand up, speak up. And that is all I have.
Well, you know what, I wasn't skipping over. I noticed that last night Newton had their, or Ransom Newton had their meeting about the one on West Mountain, which they voted down to not change the zoning and put that in. So, that's a perfect example. That was a stone quarry that actually my great-grandfather started way back when. So that was part of my family for a long time. But to put buildings of that massive size, it's right in a neighborhood. So no, that's, so I was happy to hear that, that they voted not to do that. And if there's places in Lackawanna County where they're suitable in an industrial area that maybe it could work, that's a different story. But so, it is an issue, and it is unfortunate up to the municipalities to make that decision. So, so we'll see how that goes.
And maybe there are areas and with changing improved technology, ways to deal with it. And certainly as you go up the Casey Highway, as you go up Casey Highway towards Carbondale on your right-hand side, there's areas that hopefully will be developed. But for data centers, we need some technology changes before I think we would agree that it's appropriate. A motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.